Hello student, today I am going to teach you about the development of the prosencephalon. Okay. Prosencephalon is the most rostral part of the neural tube. Anterior part of the prosencephalon anterior to the interventricular foramen that form the telencephalon, and the cavity of the telencephalon form the lateral ventricle. The median part caudal to the interventricular foramen, the part of the prosencephalon that form the diencephalon, and cavity of the diencephalon is a third ventricle. The prosencephalon mostly develop from the LR plate, and the lamina terminalis is a cranial most part of the neural tube, and it is a site of the closure of the anterior neuropore. So here you can see this is the schematic diagram of the brain vesicles. This is the prosencephalon, this is the mesencephalon, and this is the rhombencephalon. Okay. The prosencephalon has the anterior part, okay, that form the telencephalon, and the median part that form the diencephalon. Diencephalon, which form the optic curve and optic stalk. These optic curve and stalk that form the retina and optic nerve. The diencephalon also form the pituitary gland, thalamus, hypothalamus, and epiphysis. Here you can see this is the cut section, and this is the cavity in the telencephalon that is known as a lateral ventricle, and the cavity of the diencephalon is a third ventricle. This lateral ventricle communicate with the third ventricle through this interventricular foramen. This is the schematic diagram, the lateral view, in which you can see this is the telencephalon, this is the diencephalon, and this is the mesencephalon, and this is the rhombencephalon. The further growth shows this is the cerebral vesicles that is developed from the telencephalon. Okay. This is the diencephalon, and this mesencephalon that going to form the midbrain. Now come to the diencephalon. The diencephalon has roof plate and two lateral wall and the floor plate. So here you can see this is the lateral view of the brain vesicle, and this is the cut section in which you can see the three zone, the innermost thin layer that is the ependymal zone, and the middle zone that is the mental zone, and the periphery that is the ventricular zone. So the mental zone in the lateral wall proliferate to form the three swellings. Okay? Three swellings. LR plate form the lateral wall and the floor. Three swellings appear in the lateral wall of the third ventricle. You can see the hypothalamic sulcus appear in between this hypothalamus middle swelling and the lower swelling that form the hypothalamus. So it is hypothalamic sulcus is between the thalamus and the hypothalamus. Epithalamic sulcus that is seen between the epithalamus above and the thalamus below. Now this swelling that form the thalamus, hypothalamus, and the epithalamus on each side. Now come to the thalamus. Here this is the mid sagittal section in which you can see this is the lateral wall of the third ventricle, and this is the anterior wall of the third ventricle that is formed by the lamina terminalis, and lamina terminalis is a part of the telencephalon, in which you can see this middle swelling that form the thalamus, and you can see the lower swelling that form the hypothalamus, while the upper swelling that form the epithalamus. So here you can see this is the hypothalamic sulcus. hypothalamic sulcus which separate the thalamus above or dorsally and the hypothalamus below or ventrally. The hypothalamic sulcus is not a continuation of the sulcus limigens. Now, the thalamus that grow on each side develop rapidly, bulge into the cavity of the third ventricle and reducing it to a narrow cleft. Anteriorly, the thalamus extend up to the floor of the interventricular foramen, dorsal wall of the interventricular foramen. Thalami meet and fuse in the midline in 70% of brains, forming a bridge of grey matter across the third ventricle. That bridge is known as the interthalamic adhesion. Now the functions of the thalamus. Thalamus is a relay station of all sensory except olfactory information. It regulates the consciousness, sleep and alertness. Now about the hypothalamus. The ventral wall, ventral part or lower part below this hypothalamic sulcus that form the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus here in this cut section, you can see the section taken at the level of interventricular foramen. You can see this is the diencephalon and this is the third ventricle and this is the telencephalon. That within that you can see the cavity, that is the lateral ventricle. So here the hypothalamus that encroach on the floor plate and differentiate into groups of nuclei. The hypothalamus regulate the function of the autonomic nervous system and it concerned with thermoregulation, water and food intake, and it also regulate the biological clock. A pair of nuclei, mammillary body, form a pea-sized swelling on the ventral surface of hypothalamus. So this swelling you can see on the ventral surface of the diencephalon. Now the floor of the diencephalon, it shows the following from behind forward. These features are: first, caudal mousse is a mammillary body, that is a pair of nuclei of the hypothalamus. The cranial to this mammillary body, there is a undercellular growth that is known as a tuber cinereum. In the middle of tuber cinereum, you can see the one diverticulum from the floor of the diencephalon, that is from the infundibulum. The cranial mousse, there is optic chiasma, optic chiasma. Proximal part of the optic bulb, here the nasal fiber, this is the proximal part of the optic bulb, and here the nasal fiber of the optic nerve decussate. Now the hypophysis or pituitary gland. The pituitary gland that develop from the two different source of origin. So one, that the anterior lobe or adenohypophysis that derive from the Ratkes pouch. That Ratkes pouch is a upward growth from the ectoderm of the roof of the stomodium at the 3 week of intrauterine life. So this Ratkes pouch is a ectodermal in origin. These form the glandular part of the pituitary gland. Now the posterior lobe, also known as a neurohypophysis, that is derived from the infundibulum, and infundibulum is a funnel shaped diverticulum from the floor of the diencephalon This funnel shaped diverticulum that grow dorsal to the Ratkes pouch, and these two diverticulum, okay, that form the pituitary gland. And this infundibulum is a neuroectodermal in origin that form a nervous part, though it is nervous part, but it not contain the nerve cell. It contain the pituocytes, which like a neuroglial, and it also contain the nerve fibers that is extend from the some nuclei of the hypothalamus. Now here in which you can see this is the sagittal section, in which you can see this is the cut section of the brain vesicle. This is the prosencephalon, this is the diencephalon. Okay, so in the on the floor of the diencephalon there is a one diverticulum that form. This diverticulum is known as a infundibulum that grow caudally and dorsal to the Ratkes pouch. Okay, here you can see this is the stomodium, and this is the floor of stomodium, and this is the roof of stomodium. From this roof of stomodium, one diverticulum that extend upward. Okay, that diverticulum is a Ratkes pouch. Okay, it grow upward to the floor of the diencephalon. Okay, and these two pouch that form the pituitary gland. So in this section you can see also this is the floor of the diencephalon. Okay, and this one diverticulum in red color, that is the infundibulum. Okay, and this blue one, that is the diverticulum from the roof of the stomodium. This Ratkes pouch, also known as a hypophyseal diverticulum, is by the third week the hypophyseal diverticulum project from the roof of the stomodium and lie adjacent to the infundibulum. The stalk of the hypophyseal diverticulum passes between the chondrification center of the developing presphenoid and basisphenoid bone of the cranium. Okay. During the 6th week, the connection of the diverticulum with the oral cavity degenerate and disappear. Okay. Degenerate and disappear. Now, the cells of the adenohypophysis that form the pars anterior. So here you can see this is the pars anterior. This is the cleft, okay, within this pouch that is going to regress. Okay, the part here, this is the pars intermedia. Okay, and the some cell that surround this infundibular stem, this blue one, that is the pars tubralis. So adenohypophysis has three parts. Okay, pars anterior, pars intermedia, and the pars tubralis. Occasionally, small portion of Ratkes pouch persist in the floor of the pharynx as a pharyngeal hypophysis. Craniopharyngioma arise from remnant of Ratkes pouch. Now the roof plate of the diencephalon. Roof plate continues rostrally with the lamina terminalis. Okay, so here you can see in this sagittal section of the diencephalon and telencephalon, you can see this is the lateral wall of the third ventricle, and this is the anterior wall of the third ventricle, and this is the roof of the third ventricle or roof of the diencephalon. So this roof of the diencephalon that continues with the lamina terminalis. Anterior part of the roof of the diencephalon consists of single layer of ependymal cell. Okay, a single layer of ependymal cell. Here in the cut section at the interventricular foramen, you can see this is the roof of the diencephalon. Okay, and this is the cerebral vesicles that is outpouching from the prosencephalon, that is from the cerebral hemisphere. So here you can see the roof of the diencephalon that is covered by the single layer of ependymal cell, and it is covered by this vascular mesenchyme. So this form the choroid plexus of the third ventricle. Now the junction of this cerebral vesicle and the roof of the diencephalon, this wall of the telencephalon is very thin. Okay, and with this vascular mesenchyme, it forms the choroid plexus of the lateral ventricle that go inward, and it form the go through the choroid fissure, and it form the choroid plexus of lateral ventricle. Now the posterior part of the roof plate of the diencephalon, this part, posterior part of the roof plate of the diencephalon form a median diverticulum. Here you can see this is the median diverticulum. The proximal part of this form the pineal recess of the third ventricle, pineal recess of third ventricle, and the distal part that form the pineal gland. So the median diverticulum has proximal part that form the pineal recess of third ventricle, and the distal part that became solidified to form a pineal gland. Now the pineal recess has ventral lamina. Here you can see this is the ventral lamina, and this is the posterior lamina or the dorsal lamina. So in the ventral lamina you can see the habenular commissure. This habenular commissure, that is the nerve fiber which connect the two habenular nucleus. This habenular nucleus that is situated around the pineal stalk. The posterior commissure that also consists of nerve fiber, and it is the important for the bilateral pupillary light reflex. The pineal gland serve as a channel through which light and darkness affect endocrine and behavioral rhythm. Okay. In some reptile, the pineal gland has anterior and posterior outgrowth. The anterior outgrowth that form a pineal or parietal eye, while the posterior outgrowth persists as a gland proper. The calcium deposited in the late life serve as a landmark on the radiograph of skull. So that is about the diencephalon. Now come to the telencephalon. Okay. At the 5th week, the cerebral hemisphere arises as the bilateral evagination of alar plate of the lateral wall of the prosencephalon. The median part that formed by the lamina terminalis that form the anterior wall of the third ventricle, and the cavity is the lateral ventricle. So here you can see this is the prosencephalon, the two outpouching from the prosencephalon on the anterior aspects that form the cerebral vesicles, and these cerebral vesicles that ultimately from the cerebrum. The anterior part of the telencephalon, that is the lamina terminalis. Okay. That is the site of the closure of the anterior neurocore. Now this is cut section of the brain vesicle in which you can see the cavity of the telencephalon, that is the lateral ventricle, okay, which communicate with the third ventricle through the interventricular foramen or foramen of Monro. So in this lateral view you can see this telencephalon vesicles that form the cerebral vesicle that form the cerebrum, and this is the diencephalon. Now come to the pallium or cerebral cortex. The neuroblast, initially the cerebral vesicle has three zones. Okay, here you can see this is the cut section at the interventricular foramen, and this you can see this is the wall of the cerebral vesicle, and the cavity, that is the lateral ventricle. This is the third ventricle, and this is the diencephalon. Here you can see this is the thalamus, and this is the hypothalamus. Okay, so initially the wall of the cerebral vesicle has three zones. Inside to outside there is ependymal, mental zone and marginal zone. Now neuroblasts migrate externally from this mental zone, okay, to the marginal zone that form the definitive cortex or cerebral cortex or cerebral gray matter, okay, at the periphery. The remaining cell near the basal part proliferate to form the basal ganglia. So here you can see in this section, okay, there is a peripheral migration of the neuroblast cell, okay, and this basal part that form the, in the basal part these cells proliferate in the mental zone to form the basal ganglia. So in this section you can see this peripheral gray matter, okay, that is known as definitive cerebral cortex. So cell first migrate in the this region, okay. In a strip of cortex differentiate first on the medial surface of the hemisphere outside the curve of the choroid fissure that form the archipallium, okay, archipallium, and anteriorly archipallium form the pre-terminal area, while posteriorly the archipallium that form the hippocampus. Okay, here you can see the hippocampus. The some cell from this hippocampus migrate to the marginal zone, okay, that form the dentate gyrus, okay, dentate gyrus. Now the nerve fiber arising from the hippocampus and the dentate gyrus appear on the surface of the brain, forming a bundle of the fimbria, and then anteriorly it form a fornix. Here you can see this yellow one, that is the nerve fiber, okay. The fornix connect with the opposite fornix, and this form the hippocampal commissure. Now that is about the archipallium. Now the paleopallium. Somewhat later, another area of cortex overlying the corpus striatum or the this basal ganglia. Here this cortex, okay, that form the differentiate to form the paleopallium. In adult it persists as a pyriform cortex, and it includes the uncus and parahippocampus gyrus, okay, which receive the fiber of olfactory tract. So here you can see the this basal ganglia is formed on this basal part of this mental zone. At this you can see the cell migrate from this area, and this form the paleopallium, that is the form the parahippocampus and uncus. Now, so that is about the corpus cerebral cortex. Now the corpus striatum. By the middle of the second month, basal part of the hemisphere, okay, basal part of the hemisphere begin to grow and bulge into the lumen of the lateral ventricle and into the floor of the foramen of Monro. Here you can see the cell in the mental zone proliferate and bulge into the cavity of the lateral ventricle. So this cell going to form the corpus striatum. Meanwhile, the axon from the neuroblast in the cortex, here in the cortex, that grow inward, okay, that form the internal capsule that split the corpus striatum into two parts, okay. This part is known as a caudate nucleus and this part is known as a lentiform nucleus. The growth of the temporal lobe carries the caudal part of the caudate nucleus along the roof of the inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. It is a C-shaped body, okay, that extends from the floor of the interventricular foramen, okay, it line with the lateral ventricle, okay, and extend up to the roof of the inferior horn of the temporal lobe. So the ventrolateral part, this ventrolateral part that form the lentiform nucleus and this dorsomedial part that form the caudate nucleus, okay. So that is about the corpus striatum. Now the growth of the cerebral vesicle, okay. You can see this is the dorsal view of the prosencephalon. Here you can see this is cerebral vesicle and this is the diencephalon and the cavity within that, okay. Here the cut section in which you can see the cavity of the diencephalon and the cavity of the cerebral hemisphere, that is the lateral ventricle. Now, and this is the medial wall of the cerebral vesicle. Now the cerebral vesicle expand in all direction, at first forward, okay, it grow forward to form a frontal lobe and the cavity within that form the anterior horn of the lateral ventricle. Then it grow upward, okay, that form the parietal lobe, okay, and the cavity within that form the body of the lateral ventricle. The backward growth, okay, here you can see this backward growth that form the occipital lobe and cavity within that is the posterior horn of the lateral ventricle. As the vesicle grow backward, it overlaps successively the diencephalon, mesencephalon and a part of the cerebellar rudiment. Okay, so here because of that you can see the lateral wall of the diencephalon. This is the diencephalon and this is the thalamus, and the medial wall of this cerebral vesicle that fuse with each other. So you can see this thalamus and the caudate nucleus come in close contact with each other. The further backward growth is arrested by the tension of limiting tissue of the brain capsule. Now the growth occur in the downward and forward direction, and these form the temporal lobe, and the cavity within that form a inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. So you can see this cavity that form a C shape. Okay. Now you can see this dark one, this comma shape body, that is the caudate nucleus here. The caudate nucleus that extends from the floor of the interventricular foramen. Okay. It follows the choroid fissure. Okay. And in the temporal lobe it form a roof of the inferior horn. The anterior end of this caudate nucleus has some enlargement that is known as an amygdaloid body. Now the development of gyrus and sulci. As you know, initially the cerebral vesicle is smooth. As the development progress, there is a sulci and gyrus appears on the surface. Okay, so the remaining cerebral cortex, okay, here you can see this part that form medial part and medial basal and anterior part that form the archipallium, while the some part that is paleopallium, okay, on the lower aspect, posterior aspects, okay, and the remaining this cortex that form the neopallial cortex. That extending neopallial cortex that extending outside the hippocampal formation and the paleopallium. Okay, this now initially the surface of hemisphere remain fairly smooth. During the 4th month, the lateral sulcus, here you can see the lateral sulcus appear, okay, as a surface depression on the supralateral surface of the hemisphere, and it correspond with the position of the corpus striatum. Here the cortex, okay, lags in growth. Subsequently, the growth of the adjoining frontal, parietal and temporal lobe that form a opercular covering on the lateral sulcus. Okay. And this hidden part is known as the insula. During the 6th month, other sulcus appears, okay, that are the parieto-occipital, postcalcarine, cingulates and central, okay, sulcus appear. In this manner, the neopallial cortex possesses enormous surface area. Okay, 2/3 of the cortex occupies the depression of the sulci, and the 1/3 is exposed to the surface. Okay. Now, functionally, the sulci may be 3 variety. First is limiting sulcus. Example of this limiting sulcus is a central sulcus. The second functional sulcus is a axial sulcus. The example of this is a postcalcarine sulcus, and the third one is a operculated sulcus. The example is a lunate sulcus and this lateral sulcus. So that is about the development of the sulcus and gyrus. Now, the longitudinal groove that develop in the later part of the 5th week along the anteromedian part of the undersurface of cerebral vesicle. Okay. This groove that evaginate rostrally and it form a small brain. This outgrowth is solidified entirely. Its distal part enlarged to form the olfactory bulb, which receives synaptic connection with the bipolar olfactory neuron of the olfactory epithelium. The proximal part of the stalk that form the olfactory tract, olfactory stalk. Okay, olfactory tract. Okay, now this olfactory tract and the surrounding cerebral cortex that form a piriform area. Smell brain is a rudimentary in the man. Only this olfactory bulb and the olfactory tract remain present. Now the commissure of the brain. Commissure is a fibers connect the wide area of two cerebral hemispheres. The three principal commissure that is seen within the lamina terminalis. These are the anterior commissure, fornix and corpus callosum. The anterior commissure appear first, okay, and it is appear during the third month. In this sagittal section, you can see this is the anterior commissure, okay, and this is the smell brain. You can see this is the lamina terminalis within you, which you can see the anterior commissure, and this is the corpus callosum. Now the fornix occupy the dorsal part of the lamina terminalis. In this coronal section, you can see this is the fornix, okay, fornix that form the habenular commissure. Sorry, it form the hippocampal commissure. So this hippocampal commissure or fornix, it arises in the hippocampus and converge on the lamina terminalis close to the roof plate of the diencephalon. From here, the fiber continue forming an arching system immediately outside the choroid fissure to the mammillary body and the hypothalamus. So here you can see this is the fornix. The most important commissure is a corpus callosum. Okay, corpus callosum. You can see this yellow band. Okay, it appears by the 10th week of the development. It connects the non-olfactory area of the right and left cerebral vesicles, cerebral cortex. So anterior commissure that connect the fiber of the olfactory bulb and related brain area, while this connect non-olfactory part of the cerebral cortex. Initially, this corpus callosum is a small bundle that lie within the lamina terminalis. As a result of continuous expansion of neopallium, however, it extends first anteriorly and then posteriorly, arching over the thin roof of the here. You can see it arch over the thin roof of the diencephalon. In addition to these three commissure, there is another three appear. Okay, these two are seen in this roof of the diencephalon. Okay, here you can see this habenular commissure. Okay, that connect the habenular nucleus, and this posterior commissure. Okay, that is important for the bilateral pupillary light reflect. This habenular nucleus, pineal gland, this area form epithalamus. And lastly, the optic chiasma which appear in the rostral wall of the diencephalon, and it contain fiber from the medial half of the retina. Now the postnatal growth of the brain. The volume of the newborn brain is about 1/4 of the adult. During the first year, it enlarges and reaches about 3/4 of the adult size. Thereafter, its rate of growth is slow and it assumes full adult size within 17 or 18 years. The increase in volume is not due to the increase in number of neuroblasts, but it is mainly due to the myelination of nerve fiber. Now the congenital anomalies of brain. Anencephaly is a defective formation of skull cap with exposed malformed brain. It is due to non-closure of the anterior neuropore. Microcephaly is a small brain. Hydrocephalus is an excessive accumulation of the cerebrospinal fluid within the ventricular system. Arnold-Chiari malformation is a downward displacement of the cerebellar tonsil through foramen magnum. Holoprosencephaly (HPE) is a spectrum of abnormalities in which loss of midline structure result in malformation of the brain and face. Schizencephaly is a large cleft in cerebral hemisphere. So that is about the prosencephalon. Thank you.